Have you ever noticed how the loudest rooms are often filled with the weakest minds? Noise is everywhere: social media, gossip, distractions, opinions of people who don't even live their own truths. And in that chaos, you lose yourself. But when you step away, when you shut the world out and embrace silence, something powerful happens. You start hearing your own thoughts. You start understanding who you are without the influence of others. Silence is uncomfortable for most because it exposes reality. In silence, you can't hide behind excuses, fake smiles, or empty validation. You're forced to face your reflection, your flaws, your weaknesses, but also your potential. That's why silence is not your enemy, it's your greatest teacher. It teaches you discipline, it teaches you clarity, and it teaches you to build power from within instead of seeking it outside. When the world is screaming at you, only the strongest have the courage to go quiet, to listen, to learn, and to grow, because silence doesn't lie. Silence shows you exactly what needs to change, and the man who learns from silence becomes unstoppable. Silence is one of the most underrated tools in the modern world. People believe success comes from grinding endlessly, networking, or listening to the constant noise of motivation around them. But the truth is different. Real focus, the kind that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary, is born in silence. When you remove distractions, when you choose to step into an environment where only your thoughts exist, you give yourself a weapon stronger than any external tool. In silence, you can actually hear the truth you've been ignoring. Your mind slows down, the fog clears, and suddenly you see the path that was always in front of you. Most people never realize this because they are terrified of being alone with their own minds. But once you master that, your focus becomes unbreakable, and no outside voice can derail you. The problem with modern society is that it rewards noise. Everywhere you look, there's constant chatter, notifications, gossip, arguments, opinions of people who don't even matter. This endless noise kills clarity. It pulls your energy in 1,000 useless directions. You try to concentrate on your goals, but your phone buzzes, the TV blares, someone messages you nonsense, and before you know it, your mind is cluttered. Silence fixes this instantly. When you cut away the voices of the world, you reclaim your attention. You're no longer dragged by the tide of distraction. Instead, you choose where to swim. This is the secret powerful people understand. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is power waiting to be used. The more silent your environment, the sharper your focus becomes, like a blade honed in stillness. When you embrace silence, you stop consuming and start creating. Think about it, all the greatest breakthroughs, inventions, and philosophies were born not in chaos, but in solitude. Focus thrives when the world is quiet. Your brain stops jumping from one stimulus to another, and instead, it begins to drill deep into one task, one mission, one vision. This depth is where mastery lies. Anyone can scatter their energy across multiple distractions, but only the man who knows silence can go deep enough to master his craft. In that depth, you find ideas others miss. You see solutions others can't see. You sharpen your concentration until nothing else exists except the task at hand. That level of focus is unstoppable, and silence is the key that unlocks it. Most people fear silence because it feels heavy. They can't sit in a room without music, without talking, without checking their phones, because silence reveals who they really are. It strips away the illusions, and that is exactly why it is so valuable. When you confront silence, you confront yourself. Your weaknesses come to the surface, your doubts rise, your insecurities whisper. But this is the classroom of focus. This is where you train. When you face those demons instead of running from them, you learn to control them. You learn to channel your thoughts instead of being consumed by them. That discipline turns your mind into a weapon, precise and focused, not scattered and weak. Silence doesn't just sharpen your focus, it strengthens your willpower. The ability to sit alone, to resist the temptation of distractions, to channel your energy inward instead of outward, that's real strength. In silence, you learn to delay gratification. You learn patience. You learn to keep your eyes fixed on the long-term prize instead of chasing every shiny distraction. Focus isn't just about attention, it's about direction. Silence gives you that direction. It forces you to ask what actually matters. What deserves my energy? And once you've answered that, nothing else can pull you away. You'll watch others waste hours in noise while you build empires in silence. Another truth about silence is that it trains discipline. Focus is not natural, it's a skill, and silence is the gym where you build it. When you shut everything off and dedicate yourself to one mission, you train your brain to obey. At first, it's uncomfortable. Your mind resists, it craves noise, it wants stimulation. But if you stay in silence long enough, the mind bends. It learns to obey your command, and once your mind obeys you, your focus becomes a weapon. You'll sit down to work, and hours will pass like minutes because your concentration is unshakable. That's the kind of focus that builds millionaires, athletes, warriors, and leaders. And it's born in silence, forged in those quiet hours when everyone else is busy drowning in distraction. Silence also sharpens intuition, and intuition is critical for focus. When your life is filled with noise, you can't hear your own inner voice. You're clouded by opinions, by fear of judgment, by endless comparisons. But in silence, your instincts become loud. You begin to trust yourself. You start to see the path clearly, not through the lens of others, but through your own clarity. That inner guidance keeps your focus steady because you're no longer pulled by outside approval. You don't need validation. You don't need to prove yourself in the noise. You already know what you're doing and why. That kind of conviction makes your focus invincible. You don't get distracted because you're not searching for answers in the noise. You already heard the truth in the silence. Focus is the ultimate currency of success, and silence is the bank where it is stored. Think about it. Every billionaire, every champion, every revolutionary thinker, they all had periods of silence. They all had moments where they disappeared, cut off the world, and locked into their mission. While the average man was scrolling, gossiping, and complaining, they were sharpening their focus in silence. And that's why their results look superhuman. It's not magic, it's discipline. It's choosing silence over noise, clarity over chaos, focus over distraction. If you want to achieve anything beyond average, you must embrace silence as your teacher. That is where the mind sharpens, where the path clears, and where greatness begins. Silence is not weakness, silence is raw power. The strongest men in history understood this truth. Strength is not always about shouting the loudest. It's about mastering the storm inside. When you choose silence, you choose control. You prove to yourself that you don't need constant noise to feel alive. That's strength. When others drown themselves in distractions, wasting their energy in endless conversations, you conserve yours. You hold it back, you let it build, and when the moment comes, you unleash it with precision. Silence is where strength is forged, because it's in silence that you battle your greatest enemy, yourself. The man who can sit alone, who can handle the weight of his own mind, becomes unshakable. No insult can break him, no criticism can bend him, because he already conquered himself in silence. In silence, you learn endurance. You learn to withstand discomfort without running to escape it. Most people can't sit alone for 5 minutes without panicking, without grabbing their phones, without looking for something to numb the emptiness. But the man who chooses silence learns patience. He learns to breathe through discomfort, to hold his ground when everything inside him screams to run. That's strength, because life will test you with storms, with losses, with betrayals. And when that moment comes, the man trained in silence will not crumble. He already knows how to hold steady. He already knows how to suffer in stillness without breaking. That kind of strength can't be faked. It's built in the quiet moments when no one is watching. Silence also teaches emotional control. People think strength is about physical power, but emotional control is far more rare and far more valuable. Weak men explode when triggered. They argue over meaningless things. They let their emotions control them like puppets. But the man of silence holds power over himself. He doesn't need to react to every word. He doesn't need to prove himself in every argument. He understands that silence cuts deeper than noise. That restraint, that ability to remain calm when provoked, is pure strength. Because strength is not about fighting every battle. It's about choosing the right ones. Silence teaches you this. It gives you the discipline to walk away when necessary, to conserve your energy, to stay unshaken in the face of chaos. That control turns you into a fortress that no one can penetrate. True strength is not measured by how many people you can dominate, but by how unshakable you are when the world tries to dominate you. Silence builds that resilience. In silence, you hear your fears. You face your doubts. You meet the side of yourself that most men spend their lives avoiding, and by facing it, you defeat it. Every moment you spend in silence is a test. Can you resist the urge to run back to distraction? Can you resist the urge to chase approval? If you can, you're building strength, because strength is about resisting temptation. It's about choosing discipline over comfort, and silence is the perfect training ground. If you can sit in silence without breaking, you can stand in the chaos of life without falling. That's the kind of power people respect. That's the kind of strength that makes you unmovable. Silence also builds mental toughness. Noise is easy. Noise keeps you entertained, it keeps you comfortable, but silence forces you into confrontation with reality. It doesn't sugarcoat anything. It shows you your flaws, your weaknesses, your wasted time. And staring at that truth is painful, but pain is where strength grows. Every time you sit in silence and refuse to run, you toughen your mind. You teach yourself to handle pressure. You teach yourself to stay calm under stress. And that mental toughness gives you an edge in every area of life. While others are panicking, you're steady. While others are distracted, you're focused. While others crumble under weight, you carry it with calm strength. That's what silence builds. That's why the man of silence is feared, because he doesn't break. He doesn't fold. He doesn't need the world to hold him up. He holds himself. Strength also comes from independence, and silence gives you that independence. Most men need constant validation, constant company, constant approval. They're terrified of being alone. That's weakness. A strong man thrives alone. He uses silence to build his mind, his vision, his discipline. He doesn't need applause to keep going. He doesn't need hand holding to move forward. His strength comes from within, not from outside. Silence teaches you this. It teaches you to be complete on your own, to draw power from your solitude instead of fearing it. And once you reach that level, you become untouchable. You no longer chase validation. You no longer beg for attention. You no longer rely on anyone to feel strong. You carry your strength with you everywhere because silence already taught you how to build it from within. That independence makes you unstoppable in a world full of dependency. Silence is the weight room of the soul. Just like the body builds muscle under resistance, the mind builds strength under silence. Every minute you spend in silence is like a rep. At first it feels heavy, unbearable, like you can't handle it. But the longer you endure, the stronger you get, and just like in the gym, progress comes gradually. One day, you realize you can sit for hours, locked in your own mind, unshaken, disciplined, calm. That's strength at its highest form, because when you can master silence, you can master chaos. When you can remain composed in silence, you can remain composed under attack. That is the type of strength that wins wars, that builds empires, that separates men from boys, and it all starts in the quiet, in the moments no one sees, where your strength is built rep by rep, breath by breath, silence by silence. At the end of the day, silence is not emptiness, it is not weakness, it is the hidden weapon that separates the average from the great, the fragile from the unshakable, the distracted from the truly focused. In silence, you sharpen your vision until every goal becomes crystal clear. In silence, you build strength so unbreakable that no chaos, no opinion, no obstacle can shake your foundation. The man who can master silence becomes a man who owns himself. He no longer bends under pressure. He no longer chases validation. He no longer fears loneliness. He understands that silence has given him clarity, discipline, emotional control, and power beyond measure. When you embrace silence, you stop being a slave to the noise of the world, and you start becoming the architect of your own destiny. That is where greatness begins, not in the shouting, not in the distractions, but in the quiet moments when you face yourself and grow stronger every day. So step into the silence, train in it, learn from it. Let it sharpen your focus and build your strength until nothing and no one can break you. Thank you for listening. Stay strong, stay disciplined, and never fear the silence. May your path be clear, may your strength never waver, and may you rise above the noise to claim the life you deserve. God bless you,